Thursday Night Tailgate, where the spotlight is always on the positive. Tune in Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time to hear your favorite NFL legends, players, and coaches sharing their stories. Now back to Chris and Bob.
I wouldn't joke about anything else that happens here tonight.
And now back with us here on Thursday Night Tailgate is former wide receiver Don Beebe. Let me remind you about Don's background. He is from Aurora, Illinois, and he attended Caneland High School up in Maple Park, Illinois, where he was a three-sport star, lettering in track, basketball, and football. Started out his college career at Western Illinois University, later transferred over to Chadron State College in Nebraska, where he ran track and played football. Despite only being there for 1 year, he became the first person in school history to score a touchdown in every game. Danny Woodhead would later tie that record. He would also be the first to score 5 touchdowns in a game. He set the single season record for the most touchdowns with 15, most points with 90, and most all-purpose yards with nearly 1,700. In track, he set an NAIA District 11 record in the 60-yard dash. The Omaha Herald named him the 1989 State College Athlete of the Year, and he was inducted into the Chadron State Athletic Hall of Fame back in 2000, and they renovated their football stadium and named it in his honor. He was invited to the Combine, where he ran a 4.40, the fastest among the wide receivers that year, and was a third-round draft pick by the Buffalo Bills in 1989. Played in the league from 89 to 97 for the Bills, Panthers, and the Packers, and he was a part of the Packers' Super Bowl 31 championship team, and we are delighted he is back with us again tonight here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Don, Chris, and Bob, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
No, we're fantastic,
Great.
Thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm doing great, man. Just took a head football coaching job at Aurora University 3-4 weeks ago, and my head is spinning.
Great. I was going to ask you. Talk about the job. I'm delighted to read that.
Well, it's a different animal, I'll tell you that. So coaching high school ball for 14 years and going into the college ranks, which I knew I wanted to do once I became an empty nester. And now our last child is a senior in high school, going to be going to Grand Valley State to play volleyball. And I took this head job at Aurora University. I love every second of it. And we're just now in the process of recruiting kids, and that's a full-time job now.
No doubt. So talk about, all of a sudden now you're a head college football coach, right? Life changes. It's certainly, I'm sure, a lot different than what you had to deal with in high school. So talk about, having to go through and finding recruits and being a part of that process. And oh, by the way, trying to stay within the NCAA rules, which I think is probably thicker than War and Peace, to make sure you're not violating anything. Talk about the challenges with all of that.
Yeah, you gotta certainly be up to speed on the rules, because they change, quite often. But it's you just learn what you're supposed to do. And my biggest thing now is I got to get out there and talk to kids. I know I wanted to be a big part of that. Because initially you gotta get players. I mean, every coach would tell you, you win with good players. Coaches don't win, players do. So we gotta go out there, and we're hitting it running now. I get at Division III at this school that I'm at, Aurora University, I get 4 full-time guys. So we got 5 guys out hitting the pavement all over the Chicago area, all over the country. And I'm making calls. As soon as I get off this call, I got about 2 or 3 more calls to talk to with some recruits. So I'm enjoying it. I really do. I love being an impact on young men, and football is just my avenue to be able to do that.
And talk about your coaching staff that you're assembling. I imagine these kids are going to be very fortunate not only get to play for you, but the other coaches you're putting together. Yeah,
staff we got has been great. Started with my inner circle, which was Mike Tissot. He played a couple years with the Buffalo Bills. He had a short stint there back in early 2000, somewhere around there. He was the first athlete that I actually trained at House of Speed, believe it or not. And I started House of Speed in 1998. And he was our first athlete that we started training, and he landed up getting a shot with the Buffalo Bills. It was a short stint, but he's just a great teacher. So he's the first guy I called and hired on. And then, from there, I just went out and got, some quality men. I mean, the first thing that I learned from Coach Levy and guys like Bill Polian, character counts. And the first thing you got to have in your staff is guys that are full, the men of character. And then we got to go out and get kids that are young men of character, and then you go to the next things, and as far as the talent and everything like that. But if he doesn't have character first, probably not the guy we're looking for.
And Don, you mentioned Bill Polian, and we were just talking with Keith Millard about the new spring league that Bill Polian is right at the top, of the important people putting that league together. Wanted to get your thoughts on that league, and do you think that having a guy like Polian at the head of that, it's got an opportunity to be successful where all the others have failed?
Well, I gotta say this: of all the men I've ever met in my life, if he would certainly be on that very, very, very short list of guys that I would say could get this done. That's a football man now. He understands what it takes. He's a professional, and he's a go-getter. So he's extremely sharp. He put a lot of, he's got a lot of really big-name coaches, former players, former NFL coaches that are coaching at these. I think there's 8 teams, I believe it is.
Right.
Some of them are my friends. I mean, I've been talking to him. I researched it to go coach at that deal. And, obviously I decided on the Aurora University thing, but I think it's a great thing. There's a lot of guys that just get cut that are really, really good players, and to be able to have an opportunity to go into this it's almost like a farm system, like baseball has. Obviously, somehow, some way, I believe that they're going to have to get the NFL behind it, because all the other ones folded because, you can't compete against the NFL. I mean, it's just too big of a fish. So if they can get the NFL, obviously they got a lot of NFL people, former coaches, and obviously, Bill and people like that. They actually, to me, to be honest with you, I think they need 2 or 3 leagues like this. Several leagues that gives these guys opportunities, to just showcase their abilities. Obviously, you're going to have to do it in the off seasons of the NFL because you're never going to get any TV ratings. But I think it's great. I'm really excited for the Alliance League.
Bob, questions for Don?
It's always great having you on, Don, especially this time of the year, talking to a former Buffalo Bill with the weather getting a little colder here in the Northeast. Don, I mean, you grew up, obviously, in the Midwest, played college ball there, but there's nothing quite like Buffalo. For anybody has spent time up there, it's almost inexplicable sometimes, Don. And for a guy like yourself that actually didn't start every game, but obviously played a lot. I mean, did you ever get, quote unquote, used to that kind of weather?
Yeah, I don't think you ever get used to extreme heat or extreme cold. I think you get acclimated to a certain degree. I mean, I just, for example, when the Raiders would come into town, I just remember the championship game when they came into town and we just smoked them 51-3. I mean, they didn't even want to come out of the locker room, So it was something where, and it was extreme cold that day. So we were a little more acclimated to it, but it still wasn't great for us either, but it was really bad for them. So I just think that, weather-wise, Marv used to say all the time, when it's horrible for them, it's just right for us. That was kind of our mentality with the weather. Miami hated coming up to Buffalo in December and January, and it was a huge advantage for us because just from the mental standpoint. And that's one of the things I teach kids too, coaching. Just I use a lot of Marvism is what we call it. If you think it's bad, it's a lot worse. If you think it's fine, you're way ahead of the game.
And Don, we've talked about it before. You had a chance to play with 2 of the great quarterbacks in history. When you come down to it, Jim Kelly, Brett Favre, a good friend of mine tonight, Mike. He got a hold of me and wanted me to mention your 200-yard game for those 1996 Packers. But compare those 2 quarterbacks. They were both known, obviously, Don, for their toughness. But compare them. Besides their toughness, what about the 2?
Yeah, obviously they have a lot of similarities between the 2 guys. I mean, their personalities during the course of the game were very similar. Extremely competitive guys, fun-loving guys, practical joking guys. Didn't take a whole lot of things too serious, guys. I think that just from an athletic standpoint, I think that the only separating factors would have been Brett liked to make more plays outside the pocket, whereas Jim was more of a pocket passer. And I tell you, just both great individuals. The thing about Jim Kelly, I actually was talking with him today. We were texting back and forth, and he is probably, I mean, he was certainly one of the most loyal people I've ever met in my life. I mean, when I would call Jim and needed Jim to do something or sign whatever, and boy, Jim would be there in a heartbeat and help you out. He's very unique in that area, and the man's beat cancer 3 times. I mean, it's just he has an amazing story, and if you've never heard Jim Kelly's story, boy, you got to bring him in and have him speak because he's touched a lot of people's lives.
Don, I want to stay on the subject of the Bills and get your thoughts on what you're seeing from them this year. The team that made the playoffs for the first time in 17 years last year, and I think going into this year, a lot of hopes for Bills fans, and it just hasn't worked out, I think, the way we all sort of thought it would, or at least build off of what they had last year. Your thoughts on what you've seen so far? Yeah,
it seems like both my teams are in a little bit of disarray right now. Josh is just young. I think seriously, I think he is going to be a great quarterback. I really do. Look at all the great quarterbacks that have played Hall of Fame guys, and then go back to their rookie years, and they were just, most of them not very good. I mean, Marino might be the exception to that rule, but all the other ones from Aikman and Elway, and I mean, obviously Jim started in the USFL, so but it's going to be ugly typically for a young guy. Give this guy some time, put some players around him. The quarterback's only as good as the guys in front of him. So I just hope Buffalo can turn around and get back to what they used to be. I mean, there's no fans anywhere that deserve a championship more than those people in Western New York. And one day they're going to get it. And boy, I just hope I'm there in the stadium, and a lot of those guys from those 90 teams come back and root those guys on to win a Super Bowl. Man, that would be sweet to be a part of.
Don, just a couple more before we let you go, and I was curious, with all the guys that you lined up against on the opposite line of opposite sides of the line of scrimmage, all the defensive backs that you went against, were there guys that talked a lot, tried to intimidate you, get in your head? Who were the guys that you sort of shook your head and go, okay?
Well, the toughest defensive back I ever went against was Dale Carter. Dale Carter had the longest arms. He could run. He's extremely athletic, and he was just tough. I think the biggest trash talker, and it was all in jest, and it was fun. The first time I ever stepped on the football field, believe it or not, was in the Astrodome against the Oilers my rookie year. So we're down there. It's a nationally televised game, Saturday afternoon game, 1989, and Chris Dishman is guarding me. So I'm running up the line of scrimmage. It's a run play, and Chris is talking trash, and he's like, all right, white boy. He says, I hear you can run. Let's see it, man. And I was like, I'm scared to death, all right, so... And he was just doing it fun. He wasn't being a jerk about it. So the next time I get coming out, I'm supposed to do a post corner on that side of the ball, and Chris is coming up talking trash again. And before I left the huddle, Jim Kelly, Jim goes, hey, Beebe, he says, if Dishman's pressed, I'm throwing it to you. Go deep. I'm like, oh, boy, here we go, So I go out there, and sure enough, he's pressed on me, and he's talking trash and calling me all this and everything like that, trying to take me out of my game, and I beat him for a 63-yard touchdown. So the first pass that ever went my way was a 63-yard bomb. And you should see me. You need to Google it and watch this, because I skipped like a girl. I didn't even know what to do, I didn't know what an end zone was in the NFL. So I get back out, and the whole funny thing about the whole story was I get back out there, and the next third down, and it's a run play, and I'm running up the line of scrimmage, and Dishman comes up right in my face, and he backs up about 8 steps. He says, dang, white boy can run, man. So it was pretty funny. Chris might not remember the story, but I do, because I was scared to death of him. But
well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because Dish is on the show with us next week, so we'll find out if he remembers that story.
Let's see if he remembers that. He'll remember the play. He probably won't remember the trash talking, but that was funny.
Yeah, last one, Don. Your last year in the league was in '97. You still played in 10 games, and of course that year before, as we mentioned, you had the 200-yard game. Do you think you went out on your own terms, Don? Were you ready for retirement? I mean, is it a question of losing a step? What was the deal with you in '97? You still, to me, were playing at a pretty high level.
Yeah, it was kind of a tough ending for me, to be honest with you. I loved the Packers and going to the Super Bowl 31 and winning it, and then 32 was a tough year. I battled with some injuries, and I still have my speed. I mean, when I went to the Green Bay Packers at 31 years old, I ran a 4.25 at the Don Huntsett Center. They were doing a pro day there, and so I could still run. And then that 32 year, Super Bowl 32 year, 97, I had a hamstring issue, and it became political. It seemed like, and then I got myself ready, and I was ready to go and everything like that. And Tuesday, we're in San Diego. Tuesday, I was practicing all the week before that. And Tuesday we get there, and Mike Holmgren pulled me aside, and he just said, Don, we're not going to dress you. I was like, I was devastated. I was like, why? So he told me they wanted to activate a guy by the name of Ronnie Anderson, who they had cut 2 weeks after the season was over. And so it was a little disheartening for me, and it kind of just said, I think it took that really, and I don't blame anybody. I just think it took that for me to just steal that thunder. And, I was going to go to Oakland and, when John Gruden was there, and maybe try to work out a deal and sign another year or two with the Raiders. But I decided at that time, I had 3 kids. I got 4 now, but I decided, I think I'm just going to hang it up. I had a great career, loved every minute of it. And it was, I think it took something like that from the business side of things to just kind of tell me that it was time to hang up the cleats. So I got no qualms about it. I got a son that's playing in the NFL now with the Minnesota Vikings, so I'm enjoying his career and loving every minute of that as a father and seeing the different side of what my dad had to go through. And I'll be honest, it's a whole lot more nerve-wracking as a parent than it was a player, that's for sure. But I'm enjoying his career right now.
Don, before we let you go, let our listeners know, and certainly all the people around Chicago, how they can follow you on Twitter and stay up to date with all the great things that you're doing, and particularly now as you move on as the head coach at Aurora University.
Yeah, the Don Beebe NFL, Twitter, but the best way actually is to, DonBeebe.com. Just go to DonBeebe.com, and that's basically where, I do a lot of public speaking around the country. I enjoy that. That's something that they like me to come into a different business venue or a church or wherever. That's the best way to get a hold of me, guys, and I appreciate you having me on. It's always good to be on your guys' show.
We appreciate it very much, Don. Thanks for taking time out of your night to join us. We hope you'll do it again soon. And in between now and then, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and your family.
Yeah, thanks, Bob and Chris. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you guys, too.
Good luck. Good luck, Don.
Thank you.
Take care, Don. Good luck.
All right, bye-bye.
That's the great Don Beebe. And I tell you what, Bob, you want to talk about a group of kids about to really get a great coach. Those that end up at Aurora University are going to be a group of lucky kids.
You're not kidding, especially the wide receivers, Chris. Can you imagine if I had a kid, a wide receiver? I'm going to send him there because Beebe. Can you imagine, Chris? 31 years old, a 4.25.
Right?
Seriously. But you can look it up, folks. As they say, that's incredible. But yeah, he had speed, man. I remember the Buffalo games, the 1:00 games here in the Northeast. What fun watching that guy run.
Yeah, no kidding. And, tough as nails, too. And, we've had Felix Wright on the show a handful of times, defensive back for the Cleveland Browns. And if you haven't seen the hit that he lays on Don, where he sort of takes Don's legs out from underneath him as Don is, jumping for a pass and flips him over, and Don almost straight down on his head, and it bounces up. It bounces, on his head bounces off the turf, as if he was an arrow or something. A devastating hit, but Don bounced right back up and kept on going. So a tough guy, a fast guy, and just a wonderful guy, and we really enjoy him, and we look forward to getting him back on the show again soon.